Welcome to the Expand Your Experiences podcast. I'm your host, Rashawn Stevenson. This is a show where I deconstruct experiences and how they help us develop into the best version of ourselves. I'll be facilitating conversations discussing the frameworks and experiences that help shape our lives. Enjoy the show. Before we get into the show, I want to take a little bit of time to explain why I decided to start a podcast. First of all, I love everything about the word experience. I love experiences, good, bad, or indifferent. I also love learning from other people's experiences. It doesn't always have to be your experience that you learn something from, but there's a lot to be gained from the experiences of others. I enjoy deep conversations. I love learning about people. I love getting to know them. I love getting to know why they are what they are, how they became themselves. And a lot of times I've found that experiences is the foundation to all of that. I also have met a lot of really incredible people throughout the years that are doing some really incredible things. So I felt the podcast would be a good intersection where we can learn from each other and inspire. I'll be having a range of guests discussing the foundational elements of experiences and what experiences have shaped them, what experiences they have grown from the most. But it won't be so rigid. It'll just be a free-flowing conversations. One of the things that I enjoy about any type of podcast or anything, any type of media is things that I can gain value from, things that are genuine, things that real people doing real things, real people talking about real things. So that's basically my intention for the show, just to bring value and around experiences and how we view them. So enjoy the show. Please reach out to me afterwards and let me know, give me any feedback. My goal here is to grow. My goal here is to bring value. So I'm open to any feedback that helps me do so. Enjoy the show. Cert Harrison, my very, very first episode of the Expand Your Experiences podcast with a brother. It's cool, man, because I'm glad you said yes to doing this. I mean, I felt like I had a lot of people that I can ask, but I felt like it was a short list when it came down to who I wanted to be the first person. So thank you for taking the time to do this.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate the opportunity.
I don't know where you want to start, man. We got such a long history, man. But I think I'd rather everyone get a chance to get to know who you are. I know who you are, but I want everyone listening to get a chance to know you. So why don't we start back at the fact that you were born and raised in Charleston, Chucktown, South Carolina, man. What was it like growing up in Chucktown?
Man, first off, man, thanks for having me on your show, and it's actually an honor to be the first of the first. Not everybody gets the opportunity to make history in the moment, so to be a part of your history, that's more than exciting to me, just to be able to have the privilege to be here. So thank you again, man. I can't say it enough. But I guess Charleston, South Carolina, man, where do you start? That's such a loaded question. I wasn't born there, but I was raised there. I think I was there from about 1 year of age till I was 24 or 25 years old. Grew up in a very loving home. And like probably many people listening to this right now, the crazy thing is you never really know you grow up poor until you look back and you realize, like, man, we didn't really grow up with a lot. But the environment that I was raised in is kind of what molded me and kind of got me to where I am today, which is the most exciting part, I guess, of this being able to tell my story and where I'm at in life now. But Charleston, South Carolina, I guess to sum it up, some people say Chucktown, some people say it's the Geechee capital of the world. It's all of the above, man. It's a place where there's a lot of dreamers, there's a lot of ballers, there's a lot of people that have big aspirations and they don't make it, just like a lot of other places in the world. But I guess to say with Charleston, man, it's a big part of who I am, and it's something that I'll take with me to the grave,
Well, here's the thing, man. We met in Charleston, so all I knew when I came there, like, you pretty much
welcomed me to Charleston, and my whole Charleston experience was provided through you. It's a different place, and so I
Yeah.
guess another specific question would be just having that Charleston experience growing up. Like, what elements of that is in your personality now? What did you extract from growing up there and in the household that you were raised in? Because you said a loving family, and that's actually very important to note. Because I'm pretty sure that had a lot to do with your personality, how it is now too.
So yeah, man. I mean, when I say loving family, like I grew up in the family of my mom was a nurse, my dad was a pastor, and the interesting fact was from the time I was 5 years of age till I was 13, my dad pastored a church that we were the only white people and the only white members in the church, man. So both sets of my godparents are African American and black. The environment I grew up in, I was one of maybe two, maybe three white guys in my entire neighborhood. So I grew up a little bit different. I didn't grow up in a very diverse environment. I grew up in an environment that a lot of people would say is rough and people probably wouldn't want to go around or wouldn't want to be a part of. But going back to what I said earlier, man, that's kind of what made me who I am today. And I think the experiences that I grew up with, really looking back at them, man, you coming in from North Carolina when we met in Charleston, you're the norm. You're exactly the type of person that I would want to be around. We play ball together. That was a big thing that kind of connected us back in the day was basketball. I know Westbrook was your guy. You still probably had that Westbrook mentality when you play. But yeah, man, I mean that Charleston, that was the biggest thing that I take away, man. It really showed me not to, it really showed me not to be like stay in my own skin for the most part.
So basically, like the diversity that you kind of were experiencing at the time, which, and obviously this is a show about experiences, but I think that diversity is one of the major things that helps shape experience, and the lack of diversity could be the thing that helps shape people's experience too, or mindset, if you will.
Absolutely. I mean, people don't have the experience, so they don't have the connectivity with anyone outside of their reality, and they just never grow past that, that simple reality that they have. I think I was just blessed to be in a position to have experiences, to be able to share experiences with other people that aren't like me and be able to learn from those experiences and, grow from just those friendships and just those bonds. And, since we're talking experiences, growing from every experience that I had.
So there's one specific experience that I definitely want to talk to you about. So let's fast forward to 2003, 2004 when we met. We met in a network marketing company. We both were bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. We thought we were going to be millionaires in a year. Let's talk about. So when I say that to you, like what comes to mind? Like when you go back to that experience, what do you want to? Like what comes to your mind when I bring that up?
Man, I guess not to sound cliche, but I think everybody gets to a place in life where they're sick and tired of being sick and tired with the same old experience over and over again, working a regular job. I really was in a place in life where I wanted something different. I saw an opportunity where someone didn't prejudge me based on how I looked, how I was dressed. They just said, hey, if you're coachable, if you want to win, if you want to, go out and make an income that you can't make, working for somebody else, we'll be willing to show you and kind of coach you every step of the way. But most importantly, man, the diversity and just the talent of people that we had an opportunity to meet and do have, and mainly have those experiences with traveling, doing stuff that we didn't do growing up, we weren't able to do, we weren't financially in a position to do, So network marketing, man, it was a giant. If you think about it, it's like, man, my two biggest fears when we first came into the company was, hey, man, I don't want to sell anything. I don't want to do any public speaking. You'll never get me to do those experiences because I was so scared and terrified of them. But the crazy thing is, that was kind of the breaking point, and that just kind of catapulted you and I both into our careers, into our, paths where we're at now. So I look back at it, man, I'm grateful for it,
Well, man, it's two stories that I will never, ever stopped telling people. And those stories came from our time in network marketing. I remember, like you said, we were just two cats that were, kind of rough around the edges when we first got into that company.
Just
And
a little
that's
bit.
just a little rough around the
Just a little
edges.
bit.
But I remember one day someone saying, "Hey," and this had to be like maybe 2001, maybe. Someone saying, matter of fact, I don't know if you remember, but I was working with a lady named Troop T. Yates.
I
Uh,
do.
I never had even been around a person of Indian descent. Just literally, I just grew up around black people or white people. Like I didn't really grow up around a very diverse place myself. But I remember Troop D saying, "Hey, do you want to go get Mexican food? Like we're all going to get Mexican food. Do you want to go?" I'm like, "No, what's that?" You know what I mean? I really didn't. I mean, I never even had any type of cuisine at that time that was different from what I was eating in my own environment. So I remember going. And I remember enjoying the experience so much and enjoying the food so much. I mean, what is there not to love about Mexican food? It was almost like I was mad at the fact that my parents never gave me Mexican food before. But anyway, I remember that experience. So then they took it upon themselves to always want to introduce me to something new. Then we were going to eat Mongolian food or we were just experiencing different things. And I think that opened up my mind. And I think that the biggest thing that I can take away from that era is that if you are willing to open your mind to try something new, you'd be surprised on what you actually like. And once you are willing to try something new and you experience it and that you like it, that to continue to do that, it really opens up your mind to so much.
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree with that for sure. Just through those experiences alone, I mean, if you think back the different cities you and I traveled to, even if we worked out of different offices, we would really bust our butts all week long. We'd have a Monday, 8 o'clock, got to be in the office, start taking ad calls, calling people back, setting appointments for the interviews throughout the week. And think about the experience during the week we had. If you go from point A to point B, everything was building for Saturday. We had to do a Monday orientation briefing where we had a room full of people we were trying to recruit. Tuesday, we did 2 of those with a Tuesday evening training. Wednesday, we did 1. We promoted for a Thursday evening training. Come back Thursday morning, same thing, 8 o'clock, work all day to try to get those 2 appointments filled up just to recruit people, to build a team, to go out and build an income and to build a legacy. Friday was kind of prep because we knew we were getting ready to hit the road and probably going to Jacksonville, Florida, Columbia, South Carolina, Virginia Beach to do this all day Super Saturday event.
Tennessee. Remember we went to Tennessee that time?
Oh man, Gatlinburg, Tennessee. How could I forget? That was crazy. But that alone, I think it really put the dynamics on what it means to really have an experience, but not only have one, but to grow from it, to learn from it, to develop from it. And, we did that week after week, year after year. And looking back at it, it was like, it was insane what we did,
I mean, so we're talking about insane what we did, but since then you've done so much more. I mean, that's where we started. I mean, and you had a lot of experiences prior to that, but after that you sold insurance. You worked for Granger and actually became like one of the top salespeople in that. So we talked about where it all started and but what are the things that as you progress, like, cause now, I mean, you even got your King's print hoodie on right now. And I definitely want to talk about King's prints because that's such an important to me. I actually got my King's hoodie on too. My OG King's hoodie.
You got the OG.
The OG. But how did all those other experiences doing so many different things in your career like help you become a successful business owner at King's Prints now?
Man, I think education can only get you so far, and that's no knock to education. But I love the fact that your show is called, it's based on experiences. But I think the biggest growth that we achieve and we receive is from the experience in anything that we do. It'd be like if we're gonna go to war, do you want somebody that read about war? Or do you want somebody that's had the experience in war? If somebody in your family has, I'm going to answer your question, but if somebody in your family has an illness, do you want somebody that's fresh out of med school that learned how to do an operation, or do you want somebody that's had 2,000 successful operations? So I guess for me, man, it's everything that I've been through, all the colleagues, the peers, the people that I look up to, the people that motivate me like you. I'm able to take a little bit of piece from everything, and it fully equipped me to go out and do bigger things in life that I wouldn't be able to do in any other way. So yeah, like I have been able to go out and sell insurance. I've sold insurance door to door. I've sold it over the phone. I've sold it like just in group settings. Each one of those experiences, you get to take something away, and there's really not an objection that you can ever hear that you can't overcome. So like I look at that and I can take that and just kind of catapult it into the next stepping stone of my development or your development and go out and start a business. Because if you think about it, if you can identify what people need, just because you've had so many different experiences dealing with people on a day in and day out basis, you really know how to help people. And those experiences will take you a long way in life, man. So like, it's exciting to have a company. It's exciting to have a printing company, but I wouldn't have had it without those experiences. I wouldn't be able to be here without experiences like that. And, having experiences with other people like yourself and some of the other awesome people we got a chance to work with over the years, so.
I think one of the biggest things that I learned from you is when you started King's Prince, you walked away from. I want to see if you feel comfortable sharing the situation that you walked away from and why you felt like you needed to walk away from it and do your own thing, and how your experience cup was so full that it was time for you to apply some of the things that you learned that we're talking about within your own company.
I worked for a Fortune 500 corporate America company. I worked in industrial sales, and I had about a 5-year run with that. And since we're talking experiences, that everything that led up to that point, I knew it wasn't the end goal for my life, for me, for my wife, for my family. So I looked at it as a stepping stone. But, everyone has the cliche story. When COVID hit, it changed everything, which is exactly what happened. I was 4.5 years in. I had planned on leaving corporate at the later part of 2020, but coming into 2020, I just couldn't take it anymore, to the point where I was just like, man, what we're being asked to do is completely crazy. And when they start minimizing pay, taking profit sharing away, taking commissions, the writing's on the wall. So I literally sat down with my leader, who, I still have a lot of respect for, and said, hey, man, look, it's been a good run. Fortunately, with your support and, your coaching, I was able to hit like third in the company for the year 2019. But I knew 2020 was it for me. I was hanging it up and it was time to do something different. I remember my wife coming to me and saying, hey, I know you want to actually bring your brand back out, but why don't you go out and you service other people? Because you've had all this experience, you've had all this training, you've had all this development. You're fully equipped to go out and help service other people just like you. So, that kind of fine-tuned and shifted my way of thinking just a little bit. And during a global pandemic, I forced my manager's hand. I made him fire me, and I hit the ground running. So, those experiences, I'll never forget them. It's been a great run, and I'm looking forward to the next season, where we're at and where we're going. So,
yeah, and I think like just watching you overcome some of the obstacles that you had to overcome just as an entrepreneur is a testament to what you've overcame before. It wasn't like the first time that you actually overcame stuff. I mean, going back to where we were in network marketing, that's exactly where we learned that no was okay, or that no meant that you may not be offering a product or service that's actually serving someone. Like that's where we learned those lessons at. And I mean, I really didn't realize that until I started thinking about it like years later. Like we were just doing this stuff just because that's what we thought we had to do. But looking back at it where we are now, it's like it was all stepping stone. It was all necessary, which is one of the reasons I wanted to start this podcast, man. I think that we all experience things every day. I think the difference is we don't really reflect on how important those experiences are And now that we know that they're important, to curate our own experiences and create our own to promote that growth, to help us get to the places that we want to get within our lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So where do you feel, from what you've learned to date, through everything that you've been able to experience, and I know that you're going to be able to tell your story and the world's going to be able to get a lot of value from everything that you've done, you've experienced, and you've gone through. But why is this podcast such a big important to you to get these experiences out and to share them with the world?
Man, that's a great question. And because that's something that I think about a lot. I think about where I came from, bro, situations that I came from. And I feel like, and as you said, I mean, over time, we're going to definitely get vulnerable and talk about the specifics. But I realized that experiencing things opens your mind to so many other things. Like you said earlier, it's like you can read books all day. You can look at magazines all day. You can look at TV all day, but that's just a very minor experience. Actually going to places and doing things and having access to things that are beyond your world in terms of like where you're. So let me give you an example. Like, when I lived in Maryland, there was this program that I volunteered for. It was called the CHIP program. And I'm specifically saying CHIP program because it was such an incredible, like, nonprofit. But it stood for Children with a Parent in Prison. And your job as a volunteer was to mentor, quote unquote, a kid in the program who had a parent in prison. And so the way I looked at it, and being that I have a parent in prison, I was like, okay, what is it that has helped me like overcome that obstacle? And I remember one day thinking about it, and I was like, it's the fact that I've experienced so many different things, that I don't see the world as this small place. I see it as a huge, vast, endless experience opportunity. Right. So true. So my job as a volunteer was to give a kid an experience. So I remember taking them bowling, right? And I remember seeing the look in their faces that I had in my eyes when Troopy asked me, did I want to eat Mexican food? Like, I remember seeing that look, that exact look, and saying, wow, like, yeah, I want to go bowling. And then after going bowling, something simple as bowling, but these kids had never been bowling before. I remember taking them to Orioles games and I just remember seeing the excitement in their eyes and knowing that, wow, the world is so much bigger than what I've seen so far. And hopefully it promotes them to want to do more and experience more, because it helps. It's one of the things that really shape who we are as people. So to tie it in, to answer your question, I feel like one of my life's purposes is to talk about experiences, is to share experiences, and to highlight the experiences of others, because I think it's such a valuable tool that we all have access to. And I think it's a valuable tool that we have access to, and it can really solve a lot of the problems in the world in terms of like limited perspectives and seeing things from a place other than where you are, like and it helps you understand, like, all right, this is what I thought, but now that I've seen this and now that I've experienced this, I can empathize with this situation or that situation just based on the fact that it's something new that I didn't know existed prior to me experiencing it. Did that answer your question? I know I went off on the whole thing.
No, that's good, man. I think it's important people understand what the value is you're getting ready to bring to the world, and to the many listeners out there that are going to hear this, and just the impact you're going to have through your experiences. I think that's so critical to this, segue or this takeaway from this moment. And do I have a second? I want to piggyback on that.
Hey man, let's do it.
All right. So I remember you and I, we linked up when I was in Philadelphia. It was 2013. Hadn't seen you in a little while. I know you were doing the military, doing the Navy. And there was a long gap from 2014 until 2020, until we saw each other again. I know we spoke and everything, but we didn't get a chance to kind of kick it or hang out. And I'll never forget, man, like we were on the verge of wanting to, launch a new company, a new concept, a new idea. And myself and two other of my friends flew out to California, San Diego, California to be exact, where you were stationed at the time. And that was game changing just for me. I can't speak for the other two, but I know for me, that entire experience, it gave me enlightenment, man. So let's go back. Let's do some exchange on that weekend trip we did.
Well,
if you
first
don't
of
mind.
all, no, I don't mind at all. But first of all, I had about 3 questions. That was the bonus question. That was one of the questions that I was actually excited about asking you. Just how when I say San Diego to you, and the first time you came there and you experienced it with me, like what comes to your mind? Like, what do you remember about that whole weekend?
Man, that's a loaded question.
Let me tee you up by saying this. At that point, I was already in love with San Diego,
Mm-hmm.
and I was very, very excited that you and the 2 other gentlemen were coming. And I made it my goal to make sure that you experienced San Diego the way that San Diego was supposed to be experienced from my perspective. So I'm curious, and we've talked about it so many times since then, but so that's my tee up now. The floor is yours.
Man, so there's a million and one things I want to say, but the highlights of that weekend, I'll never forget. Coming into that weekend, we had it planned for a couple months. I was extremely fatigued, exhausted, man. Work was crazy. I had just recently left corporate. We flew out. It was a long flight. We got there, and I mentally and physically I wasn't there, but I know you had everything planned to a T. I remember when we got out there, we stayed at the beach house, and you were just like, man, you're going to love it out here. It's a vibe out here. And I think the first takeaway that I remember of San Diego was there was a curfew at 10 o'clock, 10 p.m. to be exact. And we had to get everything in before 10 p.m. Now, coming from the East Coast to the West Coast is a 3-hour time difference. So it was a time advantage because I gained 3 hours when we were out there. But I remember you were like, hey, we're going to do a mountain climb. I'm not the most outdoors type person. So I was like, that's cool. So we ended up doing the mountain climb, the 4 of us. And I think there's a lot I'm going to say, but as far as this mountain climb, there was so much value on every step of the way to the top. I'll never forget, you were leading the 4 of us. I was in the very back, and then Chris and I were kind of bouncing back and forth. But I remember as we were going up, I was taking it in because I was like, man, this is different. I'm looking around. I can see different scenery. The air's fresher. We're passing people on the path. Everybody's in a good mood. Everyone's vibing. The song choices that you picked on the Bluetooth speaker that you had couldn't have got any better, man. It made the trip the most enjoyable. And I know when we were getting close to the top, my legs started getting a little tired, and I was just like, ah. And my boy was like, hey, man, we're almost there. The top's right there. So we get to the top. Not only did we get to the top, but you're like, hey, we're not stopping here. We're going to keep going. And I was like, what? So we ended up going further past the top to this little kind of higher area, but it wasn't where everybody was at the top. People were, when they got to the top, I remember there was like a pyramid of rocks with an American flag and a POW flag, and everyone stopped and taking pictures. And meanwhile, here we go, we're still hiking. So we get to this further point, and it was perfect, man, because it was no distraction. The air was like you couldn't hear anything. We were just at an elevated place, and we had a chance to kind of vibe and just kind of take it all in. And I remember when we got there, we probably sat there for 10 minutes. There wasn't a single thing that was said the entire time. We just kind of just soaked up the moment, man. But when we came back down, it was easier going down than it was going up, but it wasn't as enjoyable. The journey to the top is what was my biggest takeaway from that weekend, without even saying any of the stories about anything else. It was going up to the top with my brothers on a common goal, on a common mission, knowing that we're going to get to the top, but not only get to the top, we're going to go past where we're going from the top and continue on where most people don't go. So yeah, so just to kind of give you a segue on that, go ahead and jump in because I know you got something.
Oh man, I remember. I mean, it was so cool because I remember looking back at you, and it was like you were beat, but you weren't trying to. You weren't trying, like, you were like, man, I don't know what's going on. And you know how it is the first time you go somewhere or do something and you don't know the
Right.
distance, it seems like a long way. But I had traveled that path quite a few times, and I knew that it would be a good opportunity for us to, bond over something common in terms of something so simple as walking up. Oh, and I also remember you saying that you literally had to look at every single step up the mountain because it's rocks and it's obstacles, and you kind of had to know where you were stepping, but you didn't know where you were going. And it was just so many takeaways from that. So I'm glad that you all, and actually I remember when we got to the top and it was so quiet, we saw like hummingbirds, and I mean, I just remember that whole feeling of just being at the top, as you said, with my brothers, and the fact that, like, we knew that there's always more. There's always a little bit more, and if you're willing to do that, it's less crowded there. Because we literally were the only ones there.
Right.
We literally, and that's just something that I try to live my life with, man. I mean, to understand that it's a journey, and
right.
you. If you can do it by yourself, cool. But if you can do it with other people, you get way more from the experience than you do from just doing it on your own. Because you get to share that experience. So that's really my takeaway from that part. And just seeing your face after you got there, you know what I mean?
I mean, just to sum it up on the mountain climb, since that date, I think I've come back a total to San Diego 11 times since then. There's been a few occasions I came and I brought another group out with me. My in-laws, we did like a family vacation. I recommended San Diego. We went out to San Diego. And the crazy thing is I'm going back in April this year, 21st to the 25th, and doing the same mountain climb for the 5th time. So, but going back to the first climb that we did, you said something that definitely triggered it. When we had to look at every step we were taking, nobody's steps were identical. We're all on the same path, but I couldn't watch the steps you were taking because I had to be careful on where I was stepping and looking at the path right in front of me. And the cool thing about being on a mountain climb like that is there's danger all around. You can take a wrong step, you can fall. There's snake holes, looked like there was gopher holes. There's probably poisonous cacti, but the crazy thing, there was no fear. And I think that was another takeaway from that whole experience was there's danger all around us in everything we do in life, but we don't have to live in the fear in the moment. We all had a common goal. We were trying to get to the top, but we all had different steps we were taking. We're on the same path, but taking different aligned steps. I couldn't watch the steps you were taking because it's very important that I had every step that I was making was calculated. And the person that was in front of me and behind me, same thing. They're so focused on making the right step, but knowing that we're all going to the same destination, and that was the top. But I remember one thing that we said when we got to the top was, the top isn't the end, isn't the goal. It's just the start. So the elevation in that moment was just like, man, it was invigorating to have that experience with you and two other gentlemen that we went up there with. So thank you very much for that one, sir.
Hey, man, my pleasure. And that actually, you said a word, invigorating, that segues me into the next part of that experience, man. Anybody who comes to San Diego that, like you did, another thing they have to do is go to my favorite spot in San Diego. Like this spot to me is one of the best curated experiences of a place that I've ever been to. And I always enjoy sharing that experience with other people too. I'll let you specifically say what that place is as you tell us how that experience was for you the first time you walked in with.
Well, the first thing is I believe that this place needs to give us a sponsorship. So whenever they do hear this, they need to plug us in and let us get a sponsorship.
I agree.
But
especially
I know
as much money as I spent on coffee there.
Right. So you're a big coffee connoisseur. Like you'll find the most intricate place that you can sit and work, but also have a vibe at the same time. And you're very aware of your surroundings. So I remember you kept telling me, man, you got to experience this place. It's called the Invigitorium. There's a lot of other names I could call it, but until you've been there, I won't even do it justice by even trying to explain it. I'll never forget when we walked in, I remember seeing this big disco ball. There's also the entire wall was a design made in Post-it notes. The theme in there was very unorthodox, but it flowed perfectly. And I think if I remember correctly, they don't serve, at the time, they weren't serving ketchup or vodka, which was very interesting to me. Is like, how do you not serve ketchup and how do you not serve vodka, especially when you have a full bar, like a very adult lounge scene in the evening. But I think the biggest takeaway that I love the most about that place is not that they have Big E's writing on the wall with all his lyrics and the bathrooms are just phenomenal, but they have their corporate office enclosed within the walls of that area. It's a big glass room. And every time I go there, I'm just in awe thinking about that. Like, I want a glass room. So there's a million and one things I can say about it, man, but it's one of those that the vibe is mature, it's right, you can't go wrong. Whether you go there for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, it's a vibe each time that you go in there.
Well, and the thing that attracted me to that place is the thing that attracts me to anything or any place that I love. It's something that I can walk away from with an experience.
Yeah.
I mean, and that place is the first place that I've ever noticed where it was a curated experience of being in a place. Because I mean, a lot of places are like that. They're trying to make you feel a certain way when you're there. But that's the first place where I actually thought about it. And I actually realized, like, wow, this is an actual experience. Then it made me want to experience all the other places that they created. And it made me think, like, wow, if you can create a physical space that's an experience, you can create anything that's an experience. This podcast is an experience. And my goal is to make this podcast an experience. So the listener is taking away something and it sparking some thought in their mind to let them know, like, wow, okay, I never really thought about experiences as that way.
Right. No, it makes a lot of sense.
But what else about San Diego that particular trip because it was a game changer? Because I remember even when me and you walking down the beach and you were saying, man, I feel like I'm home. Like I it's a weird feeling. And at that time, I think you didn't even really break it down, or you couldn't even verbalize it until maybe a week or two later about how you felt, because we were at the beach and I think we did a bike ride. We ate good food. You met some of my friends in San Diego. But I remember the last night, me and you were walking down the beach and you were just looking around and you just felt, and I could just see, because I knew you, obviously we're friends, business partners, but you were walking down the beach and you just had this look of peace. It was crazy. You just had this look of peace. And then, knowing where you were prior to the trip, just with everything you had going on as an entrepreneur, and then to see that peace in your expression, it was cool, man. It not only was it cool, but it was something that kind of inspired me to let me know, hey, I created an experience that he can now grow from in whatever way that he needs to grow from.
Yeah. So when you reference that piece, not that we went on my story in detail, but I was adopted at birth into, a family that lived in the South Carolina area, but understanding that the biological side of my family, they all came from California. So when you kind of get uprooted from your roots, so to speak, and you have an opportunity to go back, I mean, there's no place like home, I guess they could say, right? So I think in that moment, the thing that hit me the most was like, man, I feel like this is where not only do I belong, but this is where I feel at most ease. Peace is a very good word for that, but I more than anything, it was like, it's a problem you've been trying to solve for a long time, and you finally find the solution to the problem, and it's just like a relief. So like that, when I got there, it was just like, man, this is the lifestyle that I would want, that I've always wanted to work for, but I didn't know existed. And I think the biggest part of that particular culture in that area and the experience that we had from it was people are out all times of the day. They're active, they're healthy, um, they're on the go, they're motivated. And it's just a different type of hustle, man, like you were saying. It's not like the South hustle or the Atlanta hustle. People are out there, they're not flexing, but they're hustling. And even like the gentleman that you met, that you introduced me to, Coco.
Mm-hmm. Coco, shout out to Coco.
Yeah. That guy is on his hustle, man. And he's just a quality individual, man. He's somebody I'll always remember. And I'll always make sure when I go out there, I look up and try to catch up with.
Yeah.
Because he's the epitome of San Diego, man.
Yeah, he is, man. And it's crazy that San Diego is such a place that I resonated with, obviously, as well. Like, and I mean, I'm in Japan now, which is a whole nother, conversation in terms of experiences. But I think me being in San Diego prior to Japan helped me appreciate Japan even more. I feel like because it's such a contrast. It's a contrast from anywhere else in the world, I'm sure. But I also feel like San Diego is a contrast from me living in Virginia or Maryland. Like, so all these different experiences of places that I lived and cultures and food and scenery and history, it's kind of been a game changer for me, man. And again, linking back to your question originally as to why I feel the need to want to have a podcast talking about experiences, because it's so rich. Like, it's literally been a game changer for me. I mean, and it's been a game changer for pretty much everyone I know. It's just that we just don't view experiences, and we don't really give experiences the credit that it deserves for helping us grow. And I ain't just talking about good experiences, bad experiences too. We're gonna, not in this particular show, but there will be shows where bad experiences will be shared, because I mean, everything ain't good, all good when it comes to experiences. Some things are bad, but the one thing that's common in all experiences is growth.
Yeah. I think that's the drive, and that's the fuel, man, that I've watched you over the years do. Is you've done nothing but grow. In every town you've been in, every person you worked with, and every season that I've watched you, man, you've always come out, whether you come out on top or not, you've always come out a better person. And I think that's where the experience comes in. And that's why you're so passionate about sharing experiences and then learning from everyone else's experiences as well, because you're very methodical when it comes to those type things.
For sure, man. Well, obviously this isn't going to be the first, only appearance that you'll have on the podcast. I mean, I feel like we'll have many, many other conversations. There are some fun questions. It's kind of fun, just to of some things that I want to ask you that are a little bit off the beaten path. And we're talking about experiences here. So for you, like, if you can experience any time in history or any event in history, like, what would that be and why?
The one experience that I feel that changed the game for me probably was getting married. That was something that I always look back to, and I think about it often, but it was a life-altering experience, but it was a game-changing experience, because it took me from a place where it's not only about me, but it's about me and the partner, the teammate. And it made me grow instantly in the moment. There's a million and one things I can say about the day of my wedding day, but I only wanted to do it once, and I only wanted to do it with the right person. And I waited 38 years to do it, and we nailed it, and we got it right on the first time. So
Dee Dee is gonna love that answer. Shout out to Dee Dee. And I'm gonna tell you why she's gonna love it. A, because she's gonna just love it because that was the game changer for you. And B, she's gonna say, Cert, he didn't even ask you that. He asked you what was an experience that you would have liked to have been a witness to, if you could be, if you could have experienced any event in history or any time frame in history, that was the question. But it's all good because you shared something that I didn't even ask you, and I'm pretty sure your wife is gonna love it, and I'm pretty sure everyone listening is gonna love that as well. So if you actually want to answer the actual question, that'd be cool too. That'd be like some bonus coverage.
So I feel like something that I would have wanted to experience that I didn't would have been game 6, Chicago Bulls final, Michael Jordan, when he hit the final shot, 1998. That would have been the moment that I would want to experience that I didn't get a chance to see in person.
It's funny, man, because I remember, like, even when I first met you, just how much of a Jordan fan you were. I remember, and we still have debates now, as I'm pretty sure many other sports lovers do, as far as like who is the GOAT. So I remember having that conversation with you before, where you just talked about, like, well, matter of fact, we talked about it a lot because that's what we bonded over. Like you said earlier, we would hoop together, and I remember. And I just it just made me think of this, but I remember just the way you play the game. Like, you play the game. If anybody who's listening to this ever watched basketball before, and you know who White Chocolate is, Jason Williams, number 55, that is who he plays like. That is his game. His handles is crazy. He can pass the ball. And going back, and I know I'm all over the place, but going back to San Diego, I remember when you threw me something. You were standing about 10 or 15 feet away from me, and you just tossed me something. What was it? Maybe it was your keys, it was your wallet or something. You just threw it. You didn't even look. You didn't even try to figure out if I was paying attention. You just threw it, and I caught it. And I remember Didi saying, like, "Yo, why did you just throw that to him?" And what do you remember what you said when you just threw that to me?
No, I don't remember. Was it? I knew he'd catch it.
It was something like that. You was like, "Look, I've been around this guy. I've been playing ball with this guy for years. I knew he would catch it." But to me, it was something so simple. But I thought, like, all right, well, this dude has a certain level of trust for me, and I don't know. It was just kind of a testament to our friendship, man, and over the years, and I'm tying that to the way you play basketball. Like, you're always putting people in position to catch the ball or catch a win or do whatever. And I think that's one of the strengths that I wanted to highlight about you. Because you even are like that with the way you run your business, man. And I think that's awesome. So that part of your personality to help people out, to pass people the rock, to let everyone else score and them get the credit, and you just help put them in a position, man. I think that's something worthy of noting, about you.
So it's funny you said that, man, because one of the groups that I took out to San Diego and we did the mountain climb were it was 4 of us total, but 2 out of the 3 that went up with me are kids from the project that grew up in Brooklyn, didn't have a lot of opportunity growing up, and we've actually, we've had some pretty good bonds. We've been able to work together. We partner on a lot of projects here in the Atlanta market. And he had opportunity to play ball the other day. Well, I had opportunity to play ball with him and Zay. And I'll never forget, we got done playing, and he was like, "Bro, you play ball just how you live your life." That was probably one of the best compliments I'd ever heard in a long time. So that's not for me to like beat on my chest. That has nothing to do with nothing. But the fact that somebody sees how I play ball and can relate it to how I live my life, that was a pretty big compliment. So, like, that was pretty cool. That was a great experience. So
yeah. Shout out to Rich and Zay, man. But I also wanted to ask you in terms of, how you play ball, and when they said that, had you ever thought about that before? Or when they said that, did it make sense to you when they said it, or was it something that when you heard it, you were like, wait a minute, I do live my life like that?
I think it was an aha moment. It was one of those, man, when somebody puts a mirror in your face and you realize something that you just do naturally, but you don't do it for any praise. You don't do it for any credit. And, hearing you say it and then hearing that is just more so confirmation than anything. It's just like, I love seeing people win, man. I love giving people an opportunity to step in, put up a shot, put up a big play, and then they get the credit for it. I've always been an assist guy. I'm not a shooter, you know that, but I have a wide open break, easy layup, and I'll dish it to somebody in the corner so they can get a three. So to answer your question, man, that was a great takeaway moment for me, because it made me realize, man, I really do live my life like that, and I do like to dish and help others out. So that was a pretty cool moment, man, to be honest.
Well, speaking of that, man, I know we're coming down the home stretch here. Like, where can people find you? Where can people connect with you? Where can people get to know more about your company and all of that stuff? Share all your information, man, so other people who want to connect in that. And you know what? Before you do that, let me. I just had something just popped in my head, and I gotta get it out. I know that we've talked a lot about, you and some of your goals in terms of being a motivational speaker, and being on stage and sharing and inspiring others through your story. As people listen to this, they're going to come to you. You've dropped a lot of information here that I'm pretty sure some people can resonate with. But what's next for you in terms of, I know you're running King's Print. I know that's your thing. But that's not your life's purpose. So your life's purpose, as you've told me, is blank. Because I want you to be able to share that with people too. So when they know to come find you, they know what they're going to get when they come find you.
So quick plug, man, King's Prints, Kings with a Z, Prints with an S. That is the company Instagram page. Kingsprints.com is where you can find the business online. But that's just a stepping stone of who it is that I really am and what it is that I want to offer the world. I'm a very passionate when it comes to public speaking. I don't get a chance to do it as much as I would like to, and I haven't done it on a consistent basis in a long time. But I'll never forget, in 2015 there was a lot of social injustices, senseless murders, that affected the Black community on a large scale. Not that was one year that was the only year, because it's a continued issue going on. But I started a nonprofit called Be Greater, and it's spelled BEGREYTER. And the purpose of Be Greater is to if it's never a solution, it can always be a bridge for the gap. Because if you think of the color gray, the only way that you can create a gray is if you take black and white and you put it together. And I'm a very firm believer in living my life in the gray area, whether that's a political stance, whether it's a spiritual stance, whether it's a business stance, no matter what it is. You don't have to be white and black on everything. You can be in the gray area. So, my life's purpose, I feel, is to be that gray area, is to be greater in everything I do, whether it's the simplest thing in making a decision, or if it's impacting somebody's life, or trying to change somebody's way of thinking, or help them think progressively, where they're not thinking negatively anymore. But that's a whole nother podcast right there, buddy.
That is a whole nother podcast. And that's a preview. And that's what I wanted. I wanted you to be able to share like that, because it's such a valuable thing. I remember when you first told me about the concept, and I've never stopped talking about that concept to you since, because it's such an ideal methodology in terms of getting people to understand the importance of black, white, and gray. And I'm not talking about skin color. I'm just talking about, generally speaking, that how important the gray area is. And so you forever have my support with Be Greater. And I'm pretty sure that the people who find you and connect with you will gain value from that as well, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this, man. It really means a lot to me. And, I'm looking forward to the next chapter of King's Prince. I'm looking forward to the next chapter of Be Greater and whatever else that you involve yourself in.
Well, man, thank you for the opportunity to be on the show, to be on the first episode. It's been an honor. I'm looking forward to watch this thing grow and learning from all the experiences you're able to share, and, all the other guests that you have on your show in the future, man. So thank you so much for your time.